My people, welcome back to Trending Gist Room. Former Minister of Youth and Sports Solomon Dalung has spoken out about the recent attacks in Boko's local government area, which has led to the loss of over 50 lives, emphasizing that these are not mere clashes between farmers and herders, but deliberate acts of terrorism aimed at displacing native communities. Dalung points out that these groups establish bases in the bush, seize land, and operate with the intent to harm innocent people. He also stated that mislabeling them as simple communal conflicts downplays the suffering of the victims and hinders efforts to find lasting solutions. Dalung urges the government to acknowledge these acts as terrorism and to take decisive action to protect the affected communities. As Nigerians, we must stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Plateau State. Let's raise awareness, demand accountability, and support initiatives aimed at bringing peace to these troubled areas. Please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more updates on important issues affecting our nation.
It has been 4 days since Boko's communities in Plateau State were attacked by some yet-to-be-identified gunmen, which left many dead and property destroyed. These lucky survivors, while narrating their ordeal to Arise News, said the attackers invaded their communities between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m., killing some persons and destroying over 700 houses in the process. They also said over 1,000 persons were injured and displaced in neighboring communities.
So after when the security came to rescue us, honestly we discovered that about 35 corpses that were buried now. And also 18 people were injured. Some are in the hospital.
Wednesday, around 3:45 p.m. That's in the evening. We were just in the town, just had gunshots, firing gunshots anyhow. We started running, our people run. Some of us escaped, and then that was what happened. They started killing everybody around. And I also lost my uncle by name, Simon Banghas. He's also a vice principal, he's a principal at GSS Manguna. So I also lost him.
I just hear gunshots as I was about to peep to see what is happening. The shots are also on me before I could understand. The people are running helter-skelter. After that, I went on rest myself too. That is how people were disorganized.
As part of measures to bring succor and respite to the victims, the Plateau State government, through the Secretary to the State Government, Samuel, visited some of the communities with relief materials. He appealed to the federal government to come to their aid with reinforcement of security personnel.
It's very clear that this is land grabbing, and this has happened over the years on the plateau. So it's not a new thing we're facing on the plateau. This is not the first time. What we are just saying is this must stop. And what we are encouraging our people, you must sleep with one eye closed.
In another development, the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadru was in just the Plateau State capital, where he held meetings with security chiefs and addressed the press.
You will have to understand, this is like you rightly put it. It has been ongoing for decades. For over 20 years we've been having this. But if issue of security and generally things like this is relative. Generally, security is, you have to look at it from the point of what was happening before and what is happening now. I think we have moved a little bit forward.
The sight of dead bodies is a sad reminder of the growing trend of insecurity in the part of the state and a potential threat to peace and stability of the region. Haroti community bears the telltale signs of the violent attacks that have left many homeless and displaced. The survivors, who are still in tears, recount their harrowing experiences as a grave site where over 40 persons were given mass burial, even as several other bodies are still missing.
Joining us now on this show is Solomon Dalung, former Minister of Youth and Sports Development. Good morning, Comrade Dalung, and thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Dr. Ruben Abati, good morning, and good morning to everybody in the house. Good morning.
Well, comrade, just let's start with your general reaction to the killings on Plateau. There was an attack in Boko's local government area, March 28. On April 2, the same assailants riding motorcycles came back and still wreaked a lot of havoc. Where were the security agencies? Why is this so perpetual, resulting in the same results, in the same outcomes, and government saying exactly the same things, and yet no end in sight to these killings?
Let me begin by sending my condolences to the people of Plateau State, Bokos local government, to be specific, and the entire nation. It is indeed very unfortunate that every day human lives had been reduced to mere statistics. The security challenges on the Plateau has been around with us for over 2 decades. It started around 2001, and the victim community was my own very community, the Tarok people. We spent 3 years without even going to farm, coming under incessant attack and marauders. Thank God after some time, we were able to stabilize, organize ourselves, and repelled the marauders, and we recorded some stability. But since then, the Plateau community has remained victims, moving from one community to the other, from the southern part of Plateau to the northern part. And it appears to have been domesticated now in Bokos local government. From the report I gathered about what happened, is that there is an established terrorist enclave within that local government. And an attempt by the security to repel them, disperse them, now resulted into this carnage where over 100 and something communities have been ransacked, killed. So it's quite unfortunate, but why do we continue to have this recurrence decimal and the same music of, oh, we're on top of the situation, government is aware? I think basically what has fueled the Plateau situation is the absence of justice. In all the Plateau crisis, there had been several commissions of inquiries. This commission of inquiries indicted non-persons over the years. None of them had been prosecuted. Some of these terrorists, they unleash havoc and kill people. Those that are arrested, taken to court, the following day they are granted bail, or thereafter they are granted bail and they are back into the community again. So we are ruled by impunity. And there seems to be no political will to deal with the situation, because I believe that it is only when justice is administered to the various commissions of inquiries reports that are rusting in the government libraries, we will not see an end to this human carnage.
I'm glad you made reference to the issue of political will, because you've referred to these people as terrorists, rightfully so. Some have tried to refer to them as herders, but I know Governor Caleb Mufwang has been very clear to say that this is no longer about herders and farmers. This is a genocide on Plateau natives. But when we speak of the issue of political will, one of the things that we thought was going to rescue this situation was the creation of Ministry of Livestock and the plan to create some sort of system that would restrict the movement so that these attacks would stop. Now, when we saw the plan, it detailed a 10-year timeline that it would take to deal with this situation. Why is it that the political will, as you called it, does not want to take decisive and urgent action against this 20-year tragedy?
To be honest with you, Ayo, I guess, you see, the problem basically is trying to redesignate criminals with either ethnic identities or community relations. There is nothing like harder harassment clashes on the Plateau. No. These are terrorists. They have their enclave, just like terrorists operating in Zamfara and elsewhere in the north. They steal cattle of people. They grab land. They operate a system in the bush that is a government. And these places are known. The security sometimes said, well, we couldn't do anything because there are no access roads. And I couldn't fathom that because, I mean, in a technologically driven economy like ours, would the issue be that of access roads? What happens to drones and cameras? Other sophisticated gadgets of intelligence gathering? So if you sum up this, you will come back to this issue of lack of a political will. Because if the political will to deal with the situation is there, these people will be given their rightful designation. They are terrorists. There was no any farm or herders animals that were either rustled by the community or they trespassed into any farmland that resulted into this series of attacks we are hearing. Where they held sway as an enclave and they operate is ancestral land belonging to the natives of that place. They've sacked them out. Most of them are living in Bokos town and churches and schools. So if we must be very honest in dealing with the Plateau situation, first, we will have to stop pretending that it is harder farmers' clashes. No, at all. It is terrorism. It is genocidal because it has made the international definition of genocide. When a group of people attack another group with the intention of wiping them on the face of the earth, it is genocide. When you employ a policy of starvation and trying to use that to wipe a community or a group of people is genocide. So what is happening is genocidal. Let us not be hiding about Ministry of Livestock. Ministry of Livestock cannot even do anything about this problem. The problem is for the federal government to designate these people with their rightful names, consider them criminals, and stop even attaching ethnic identity to them. Yes, predominantly, they belong to an ethnic nationality, predominantly. But I don't see them as operating in the overall interest of that particular ethnic nationality. Rather, they are criminals. And so if we do not treat them as criminals, we will miss the point and will continue to hold visits to Plateau State by government officials, and they will be on top of the situation while the criminals are on top of the situation.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? Why always Bokos and Mangu axis? We all know that Bokos and Mangu axis is also the Irish potato bed of this country. What is going to happen to the lot of those farmers? What's the productive activity area, that area like? But why always Bokos and Mangu axis?
When you take the geography of Plateau State, Bokos, Mangu, and some part of Panchin local government area and part of Barakinladi. This area is the productive, agriculturally productive aspect or a part of Plateau State, because most of the farming activities, when we are talking about even maize production, it comes from this area. We are talking about Irish potato, it comes from this area. And then the people themselves are, over a period of time, a multicultural society. There are even natives that are herders in those areas that had even animals more than even the Fulanis in those areas. But as it is now, most of them have lost those animals. The livestock tradition has been lost to these criminals. So it is one of the agriculturally rich part of Plateau. And it has huge forest reserve and mountainous in nature. So this combined asset provide very good shelter for criminals. The people have huge livestock assets. They are very good farmers. They produce the highest area that produce maize in Plateau is mango and bacchus. So also the Irish potato in Plateau State is produced from bacchus, mango, Barakinladi, and Jos South. So this, to me, is the motivating factor that these criminals are exploiting to wreak this havoc. So to me, I think they are deliberately trying to sack the native communities and take possession. And then from there, they could expand and do much heinous things in the state.
Okay, comrade. You said what the Nigerian state needs to do is that these, assailants should be designated as criminals. And I'm saying that, there's no doubt about that. There is already in place a Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, 2011, which says persons engaged in this kind of activities are criminals and they can be sanctioned under the law. When National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu also visited Jos, he made this very clear when he had that news conference. Are there other measures that you think that the Nigerian state should take? Are there areas of failure, just beyond the designation, that you think that the state can further work upon? Because all the time they talk about kinetic, non-kinetic approach and all of that. Where do you think the fault lines are? And what can we do going forward?
Going forward, I must be very honest that the Nigerian state appears not to have given this situation the best of understanding. I see them politicizing the issue would visit. There is gross incapacitation of the Nigerian state to be able to protect lives and properties. Let's take this last episode, Joshua, where the terrorists are gathered. They have been there. The communities have been sending in reports. They have been complaining about the activities. Nothing was done by the Nigerian state. We will only just come together when they attack. So there is a complete failure of the security architecture, and that needs to be rejigged. Because the security architecture has to be modified to take into consideration technology to be deployed in order to deal with these challenges. That's number one. Number two, the state government must also live up to its responsibility. Because the state governments cannot always be crying blue mother of, the federal government is not doing much enough, while on their own side, we have not seen anything they have done. Since these people have been attacked, the state government have not even been able to reach out as at last night in the evening when I was talking with one of the victims from the village, had not been able to reach out with intervention to be able to address the issue. In other states, state government had been also been able to mobilize the people in such a manner they should be able to repel these assailants. Our people have been more in prayers and praise and worship, which is very fantastic, but we will have to wait for God then to answer us. When the Tarok nation was attacked, we need to rally around and mobilize our people and create consciousness how intelligence can be gathered when you see signs of a large number of people approaching. Information should be sent across immediately so that the community are alert. People can be able to move away from areas where they are likely going to attack and possibly engage them, because they are also human beings. They have blood running their veins. It is not like they don't die. They don't fear death. But all this is missing. So the subnational and the national government appears not to have a common synergy as to how to deal with the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. And I think much needs to be deployed. We have very huge concentration of retired military officers in Plateau State. The state governor needs to engage their experiences. It is very, very critical. I don't see that happening. We have so many experienced public servants that have served both at the subnational and national government. There is no engagement of these people in order to tap from their experiences as to how to deal with the situation. So if we will not be engaging the people, we will not be using the resources that we have on ground and technology, these criminals will keep wreaking havoc and we will keep giving explanation as it has been.